He kōna I purangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
That sounds like paint prepping. A bit of sanding before putting on the first coat. And, well, it is. But the canvas isn't a fence or a house. It's a green sea turtle.
They love a scratch, and it's a bit of a fuss for them. Yeah, and it takes about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then the animal is back and it's in a crate and it's relaxing, so it's not too stressful for them.
Kia ora, nau mai haramai ki te ao hurihanga. Hello and welcome to Our Changing World. Ko Garton tēnei. Late last year, an unprecedented number of green sea turtles, honu, washed up on New Zealand's coastline. Many were nursed back to health and released back into the wild. And some were returned carrying special hardware that could help change the way we care for these ocean taonga. RNZ's Liz Garton met with the people behind the project.
Give this one some racing stripes, eh?
Put your initials in it.
Dr. Karen Middlemiss, turtle sander, painter, well, tagger, really, is a marine science advisor for the Department of Conservation. She's also leading a new telemetry study of the habits of green sea turtles.
The data that you get from it will help answer so many questions and really help us better inform conservation decisions for the species.
But we're jumping ahead of ourselves here. To tell this story properly, we have to go back to late 2024. Aucklander Mark Wilson was holidaying in the beautiful Rangaunu Harbour on Northland's east coast, walking his dog along the crisp white sand of Rangiputa Beach, enjoying gentle waves lapping at the shore.
I just stumbled across it, really. It was just up in the weed, sort of in the high tide mark.
It was a green sea turtle.
I was surprised how big it was. I reckon probably about 2 feet in diameter, I reckon, the shell. It was quite big. Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't expect there to be, I didn't even think there'd be turtles like hanging around in this part of the country. Little did I know.
It turns out that Mark's find was just one of 13 honu that washed up in or near the Rangaunu Harbour between October and December last year.
So we had about almost a year and a half's worth of turtles present in 2 months, and it's meant that over the whole year we've had 22. So we don't know if this is a blip or if this is the start of more things to come.
This is Dr. James Chatterton, the manager of vet services at Auckland Zoo. When turtles are found on the beach, they're actually really sick and should be reported to DOC. When this happens, they usually get raced to the zoo for emergency treatment. James and his colleague, veterinary nurse Celine Campana, talked me through what this influx of green sea turtles meant for them.
You know, all hands to the deck, and we need to sort of swing into action and start to triage them and figure out what's going on.
That all happens here.
So this is our main treatment room in the hospital. When the Department of Conservation brings a turtle into us, the first step is to bring it into here. We'll take an assessment, we'll take a body weight, get a temperature, really crucially, and we'll start some treatments, things like fluids, take some blood samples, and move from there.
The treatment room is a large, sparse room that kind of looks like a mix between a science lab and an operating theatre. Essentially, what they're doing is not that different to when a person goes along to the doctor. They'll take some blood tests, measure weight, temperature. They might do some x-rays. If they feel it's really necessary, they might send the turtle out to a specialist clinic for a CT scan. And just next door is... Oh, wow, this is a full surgery.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we're in our small theatre, which is visible to guests from the viewing window, and this is where we do the majority of our procedure work with the animals, and we've got all sorts of equipment in here. So we have our endoscopy tower, we have our anaesthetic machine and a ventilator to help us breathe for our patients. We have a load of monitoring equipment for blood pressure, respiratory gases, we have our ultrasound, our x-ray, dental x-ray. We have a lot of equipment in here.
Once they know what they're working with, they move into the treatment phase. And although it's a bit of a tongue twister, it's fair to say that treating a sick sea turtle can be tricky.
If a turtle has found themselves in a bit of trouble and they've maybe developed an illness, and then they've also come into our cooler waters, and then it sort of snowballs the situation, and they become really poorly. It's almost like they've run out of batteries at those lower temperatures. They're just not able to work. It's like, walking through mud almost. And yeah, that's a classic, that's a reptile thing. They're called ectotherms, so they receive their temperatures externally. They can't sort of generate it themselves. So when their temperature drops below their sort of optimal performance level, everything slowly grinds to a halt. So it's your whole metabolism just starts to not work. Their heart pumps more slowly. Their kidneys and liver are less able to do their jobs of filtering, all those sorts of things. Everything just grinds to a halt.
Usually they come in really poor body condition, lots of parasites, so lots of barnacles and other things on the outside of the shell. Many have got pneumonia. Some have also eaten a fishing hook or been run over by a boat or fractured their flipper or these other kind of traumatic injuries. And so working out with each individual turtle what's wrong and stabilising them, so giving them fluids, giving them medicine, giving them food, warming them up. Really interestingly for us, this cluster of green turtles have come in with metabolic alkalosis, which is a less common finding, probably related to the dehydration. And again, we're not totally sure whether they beached because of it or whether this is something that happened after they were beached. They seemed much less sick when they came. They were in good body condition with no barnacles. Instead of taking several weeks to start eating, they took 2 days or sometimes 2 hours. They looked so good to us compared to the ones we normally see that it's a real mystery to why they ended up on the beach.
A mystery that these very turtles might help solve. But we're still not at that part of the story yet. While this cluster of sick honu were healthier than the sort of turtles James and Celine normally see, the sudden influx did put a bit of a strain on the team.
Yeah, I had the fortune of being on holiday when the middle part of this cluster came in, but Celine was here.
Yeah, the day we had 4 turtles was, the few days that we had 4 turtles, we had 3 turn up on the same day. We don't ever expect to have that many at the one time. So we were utilising both the room that we'd normally use for sea turtles and also an additional building that we could set up the other 2 tanks in.
Celine showed me the space where they normally look after the turtles.
This is what we call the multi-purpose room because it is multi-purpose.
It looks like your average maintenance storage room with concrete floors and dim lighting.
It's nothing glamorous, but it really works for us because we use it for lots of other animals, including the turtles. Under the floor here is a big pool. So currently we've got 2 tanks set up at the moment because having been burned by having so many come in so quickly, we just want to be ready just in case we get another wave. So we have our tanks set up and they're on a slight incline. They are a big white plastic tub. They're tuna tubs, so I think they're what they use on fishing boats.
And using a smaller tub, an aquarium pump and a pipe that's had holes drilled into it, the turtles are treated to a makeshift shower.
So usually for at least the first night, we'll pop them into this sort of shower tank and just let water sort of drip over them, and it keeps their skin hydrated, and actually it helps to change their body temperature.
The majority of the patients go into a swim tank the next day.
They'll pass faeces, which is really important because it means that we know that their gut is working. And once that happens, we can start to introduce electrolyte solutions via a stomach tube, and the following sort of day or so we'll start to introduce usually a fish smoothie. Nobody really likes hospital food, but it's important because that's part of what is going to help you to get better is good nutrition.
That's what we do in the first week or 10 days. And then once we've got a medical plan, they go off to Kelly Tarlton's for anywhere from 3 or 4 months to a couple of years, depending on how long they need to get their strength back. And things happen slowly in reptiles. So usually they've spent weeks or sometimes months getting sick. And so it can take weeks or months to correct all that.
Before we leave Auckland Zoo and head to Tarlton's, let's find out a bit more about green sea turtles.
Green sea turtles are pretty widely dispersed all over the world.
Celine says Aotearoa doesn't have any nesting beaches, so the turtles we encounter here are sort of transient, although there does seem to be a semi-resident population of sub-adult green sea turtles hanging around.
They hang out off the top of the North Island, and then we assume once they're ready, to breed and go back, they'll go back to their natal beach, so the beach that they were hatched on.
Do turtles travel together?
No, they tend to just do their own thing, despite what Finding Nemo would suggest. But, there are areas that are good foraging grounds, and so you will get congregations of them because that's a good place to be.
It's estimated that green sea turtles live between 50 and 80 years, but there's not really any way to tell the exact age of a sea turtle. They're tiny when they hatch and head out to sea, and what follows is called the lost years, as the turtles are hard to track when they're so small and out in the open ocean. Once they're big enough, they come into shore to forage, and that's when we see them pop up over here for a bit.
We are getting green sea turtles about sort of slightly smaller than dinner plate size, and then up to more sort of car tyre size, and you can probably say that those animals are in the 5 to 7 year old probably category, and then up to the higher ends, sort of possibly in their late teens.
Only 1 in 1,000 green sea turtles survive to adulthood, and all 7 subcategories of green sea turtle are endangered. And climate change is a huge concern.
So the temperature of the sand when a sea turtle is incubating in its egg will directly determine the sex. So there's what's called a pivotal temperature, and above that temperature you'll get females, and below that temperature you'll get males. Now, unfortunately, all of our beaches are warming up. The sand temperatures are going up and up and up. And without intervention, there are many beaches around the world where about 98% of the hatchlings are going to be female. So that is going to cause a massive crash in the fairly near future if we don't have enough boys around.
Now, green sea turtles aren't the only turtle species that show up in Aotearoa, but they're the ones we have the best success in rehabilitating and releasing back into the wild.
Green turtles, about 2/3 of them we can get back to the wild. So for wildlife, getting 2/3 back into the wild is a really good success here. Olive ridleys that come in, we have 0 survival rate. Yeah, and hawksbill turtles that come in, we have not 0, but much lower. I think we've had 2 out of 17 survive to release.
And more sick turtles have been showing up.
The average over the years is 9 over the last 11 years. But this year we've seen 22.
But there's still a lot we don't know about why they're getting sick and coming up on our beaches.
Is that just chronic cold shock? But some of them come in summer. Is it lack of food? Is it change in ocean environments? It's tempting to think it's related to depletion of the marine environment and more of them are just not doing well. Apparently, historically, they never really used to see olive ridleys. They were very rare, and now they're kind of not quite as common as greens, but nearly. And so, has there been a change in ocean currents as the sea temperatures are warming, meaning that more olive ridleys are here? It's tempting to think that those warmer ocean currents are moving further south, right? And so maybe as that happens, we'll see more and more of these turtles that historically would swim and forage slightly further north, and then we wouldn't see the sick ones. And now as the currents are coming south, we're going to start to see them. And for sure, as the marine environment's depleted, we expect to therefore see more sick turtles probably.
So you'll see the problem. There's a lot we don't know about turtles, particularly the green sea turtles that are semi-resident here in Aotearoa. A problem we might soon have a solution for. And it enlists the help of the turtles themselves, once they've recuperated at Sea Life Tarlton's on the shores of Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland.
Oh gosh.
To get to the turtles, we go through the very disorientating whiteout zone.
Eek. How's the penguins?
And the jellyfish.
That's so cool.
To arrive at Turtle Bay, a large tank in the middle of the main hall.
We are New Zealand's only rehabilitation centre for sea turtles.
This is Kim Evans, displays manager at Sea Life Kelly Tarlton's. One of her jobs is looking after Turtle Bay.
Oh wow, they're huge, aren't they, really?
So in Turtle Bay we've currently got 12 sea turtles. And they're all just hanging out with some New Zealand fish, kind of getting the vibe before their big release into the ocean.
We find a quiet place to chat, and Kim talks me through the role the Kelly Tarlton's team plays in the turtles' recovery.
It's usually pretty intensive at first, giving injections, antibiotics, tube feeding, getting some pain relief and medication into their system. We're monitoring them all day, every day. You know, we're maintaining the tanks that they're in, we're looking after the husbandry, we're cleaning the shells, giving them enrichment. You know, it's not just about keeping them alive in a tub, it's keeping them happy and alive as well.
Like, what are the sort of signs that you go, oh yeah, you're good to go home?
They start becoming trouble for us, if I'm being honest. They become very feisty. You know, if we do have to take them out to weigh them, it's a mission. A sick sea turtle will just kind of handle that. But, you know, we take them out to weigh them and they're climbing off the scales, they're fighting us with everything that they have. It's as annoying as it is, it's great to see. They absolutely have personalities. We've got some absolute menaces on our hands, and managing 15 of them at one go, there's definitely some drama that happens in the aquarium, and it's really special to be able to get to know a creature like that, and to work with them and see them on such an incredible journey from where they've come from, and the relief to be able to release them. It's so exciting. But what's really exciting about this time is we actually get to see beyond that release. You know, we've got the satellite tags on some of these sea turtles, so to be able to see where they go, how they're using the habitat, you know, it's taking it that little bit further, and we're really excited to see the findings.
Which brings us back to the sanding and painting. 5 of the turtles being released this season will be carrying satellite tags, which I got my first look at out back.
As you can see, they've got the tag mounted on the back of the shell.
That's quite big.
It's
not what I expected.
It's mostly just the paint that you can see.
Kim's right. The painted area is about the size of a side plate, and the tag is sitting inside it. It looks a bit like a kid's walkie-talkie, the same width as an iPhone but shorter and fatter, with an antenna, in this case, sticking out the back rather than the top.
This is where everything is?
We're set up today, so I have a...
Dr. Karen Middlemiss is talking me through the tagging process, and you can check out some of the photos of this on our website, rnz.co.nz/OCW. The tagging team are working over a large plastic bin, essentially a big fish bin, and inside is a sea turtle. This one's actually an Eastern Pacific or black sea turtle, a subspecies of the green. It's the first time one's been satellite tagged here in New Zealand.
This little guy we're starting to see every year, a couple more. So this is an opportunity to get a tag on this one and see where they head off to. So wouldn't be surprised if this one heads out and, you know, out of the harbour and explores the coastline a bit more, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. They're so big.
Big and active, yeah.
Let's meet the rest of the team involved. First, there's the turtle. You can hear this one banging about in its bin. Doing his best to keep it calm is Dr. James Chatterton. You'll remember him from Auckland Zoo. He's holding a cloth draped over the turtle's head to help with this and to keep any debris from its eyes. AJ and Bella from Sea Life Kelly Tarlton's are there too. AJ's helping Karen apply the tag, and Bella is on the timer, a key role in this tagging process.
Start by sanding the area that we're going to put the tag on. You're just wanting to make sure you can get a good connection between the epoxy and the fiberglass cloth and the animal.
Turtles can feel this, but it's a bit like a human having an exfoliation or having your nails trimmed.
Once the carapace is sanded and cleaned, Karen marks out an area where a piece of fiberglass cloth will sit. Then she starts mixing the epoxy, and this is where Bella's timekeeping role comes in.
1 minute now.
Karen has about 5 minutes to get the epoxy spread evenly before it starts to set. And they have to do 2 layers, epoxy, the fiberglass cloth, then some more epoxy.
Like icing a cake.
Hey? Yeah, it's pretty much. That's exactly what it's like, yeah.
Once that's done, Karen writes down the particulars of the turtle on a paper tag. All the turtles are microchipped and also have a flipper tag. That's a small metal tag with an identifying number. And it's important for Karen's data that the flipper tag lines up with the satellite tag identifiers.
So we have a unique identifying number for it, as well as the serial number of the tag and things, and the weights. So it's good to know if we do recover the turtle or anyone sees it in the future, we'll be able to see how much it's grown. So that's an important aspect of it.
Once the epoxy and fiberglass are good to go, the next step is mixing the putty.
Get set, go. So now AJ and I just having a bit of a race to mix the putty. This is the one that's that we really need to get on within the next 5 minutes, so it's easier for two of us to be mixing it.
The putty goes on the bottom of the tag and is moulded so that when it's pushed down on the hump or crest of the carapace, it stays flat.
And because this turtle has got quite a raised dorsal line, I'm padding it out a little bit to the sides, but leaving it
1 minute 30.
shallow.
Reverse keel.
Yeah, reverse keel.
And the reason why we position the tag at the front of the animal is so that when they pop up to breathe, put the head out of the water, the front of the carapace comes out as well, and then the tag's exposed so that if the satellite's going over, it'll pick it up. But you put it far enough back so that the head's not impeded at all. So you don't want to position it anywhere that it would alter its natural behaviour.
1 minute.
It's a bit like being back at school and using Play-Doh.
There's another weight here while the putty sets. Again, Bella's on the timer. Then there's another layer of fiberglass paper and epoxy before it's painted with anti-foul paint.
The anti-foul stops epibionts, barnacles and algae growing on top of the tag itself. These sensors here, if they get covered with anything, they won't transmit basically to the satellite, so we're trying to prevent that from happening. It's very difficult, everything. I mean, even the turtles themselves end up with barnacles growing on them and algae, so this is just a method that we use to try and minimise that.
At this point, Karen has a little device which she sweeps past the transmitter. This shows her the tag is live and good to go.
How many times do you do that, Karen?
One per tag. I have to restrict myself.
I was going to say, because if it was me, I'd be like, is it still on? Is it still on?
No, the rule is just to do it once, just to double check.
Because you wouldn't want to make a mistake. These tags aren't cheap.
How much does it cost to tag a turtle?
Do I really want to go?
Can you tell me? Rough ballparks.
These tags are about $8,500 each, roughly. So yeah, it's no minor undertaking, but the data that you get from it will help answer so many questions and really help us better inform conservation decisions for the species.
And the tags could tell us a lot.
These are pretty cool tags actually. It gives us the GPS location, but it's also giving us depth that they're swimming at and the water temperature. So that's really important for telemetry studies when you're trying to figure out how animals are behaviourally adapting to changes in the environment. So it's a wealth of data that we're going to get from these tags. So it's exciting, very exciting for a scientist when you get lots of data like that. That's your eyes light up.
On a gorgeous late summer day in March, when the water was at an optimal temperature, about 20 degrees Celsius, 5 of the rehabilitated turtles were released back into the wild off Rangiputa Beach. Local iwi, school children and dozens of interested locals were there to see them on their way. After being welcomed home with very swift speeches in recognition that these turtles had had a long journey from Auckland that morning, the honu were carried down to the water's edge and gently laid on the sand to make their own way into the sea. An emotional kaikaranga, Charlene Rihari, was helping guide the turtles home.
This is Ātāhua, ka pā mai te wairua, the wairua that is flowing right now within this whenua. It's very just, our tupuna so harikoa. So harikoa. What an honour to be doing tōku mahi, this mahi.
For Kim, it's the end of a long road with these turtles.
To be able to get them in the ocean and see them swim off and pop their head up to say goodbye, it's just magical.
James and Celine from Auckland Zoo were hopeful about the release.
For me, this is what it's all about, is getting people excited about turtles and getting the next generation excited about turtles, because if the species have any hope, it's with local people acting differently, right? The problems have come from people, but the solutions can come from people too.
We're so lucky that a couple of them have got satellite tags on now, and we're going to be able to find out how successful our turtles have been, and that's so hugely important.
And for Karen, this is really just the start of her journey to understand these animals that make our shores home for a wee while. This summer, 10 turtles were released and 5 of them were satellite tagged. But this is just the beginning. Karen plans to tag and release 20 turtles over 3 years, making this the largest turtle telemetry study done on the mainland.
The focus of the study is how they're using our coastal habitats in New Zealand waters, and so that we can inform discussions then with iwi and the community and other research partners on how we protect those areas, and maybe even restore some of them where we've lost seagrass habitat and other impacts that affect the environment they live in. And I said to one of them that was leaving, make sure you look after the tag. don't knock that off too soon, please.
That was back in late summer. I waited a while, but I was desperate to hear how the turtles are doing. So I caught Karen when she was back in Auckland. Can you tell us anything early on?
No.
Right, well, that's disappointing. But Karen's reasons are solid.
No, the thing with research is that you need a really large sample size to have confidence that what you're seeing in the results is representative of the population. So we need to get some numbers under our belt before we can start to look at trends. We know that they're resident here because the local communities see them all year round, but we don't know if they're seeing the same turtles all year round, or whether some of them are perhaps heading off and it's new ones that they're seeing. So this study is going to be really fascinating to shine a light on that. I'm very keen to see what happens in the winter months when the water gets cooler, and perhaps they spend less time sort of lower in the water column, or they head into shallower areas, because obviously they've still got to dive down to eat, but as the water gets cooler, maybe they spend more time at the surface. So that this sort of data will give us a lot of information about changes in response to environmental variables. So I'm very excited to see what the data yields.
Sorry, listener, you'll just have to wait like the rest of us.
Thanks to Liz Garton, who reported and produced this episode. And to Team Turtle, Dr. Karen Middlemiss from DOC, Dr. James Chatterton and Celine Campana from Auckland Zoo, and Kim Evans, AJ and Bella from Sea Life Kelly Tarltons. Thanks also to those behind the scenes who helped arrange the turtle release and different conversations. Production help on this episode was by Ellen Rikers, I helped with editing, and sound engineering was by Corey Fuimaono. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd recommend checking out the latest RNZ podcast release, Kelly Tarlton's Final Treasure Hunt. Learn more about this episode and check out those photos that Liz mentioned at rnz.co.nz/OCW. Tēnā koe e whakarongo mai. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Claire Kincannon. Have a great week. Kia pai, te wiki.